My parents have been married for like 35 years, and I always saw my dad do everything for my mom. Small gifts, surprises, going out of his way to make sure she never worried about stuff. Growing up, seeing that, it just felt natural for me to do the same. I met my wife, Emily, fake name obviously, at a friend's birthday party about 5 years ago. She was honestly the prettiest girl in the room, blonde, sweet smile, laughed easily, and we clicked right away. I remember thinking how lucky I was that night. I wasn't ever the most confident guy, so her liking me felt unreal. From the start, I treated her really well, like sending flowers just because. If she mentioned she liked something, boom, I'd have it ordered before she'd finish the sentence. I didn't even think about it too much, it was second nature. Emily always seemed super appreciative. She'd smile really wide, kiss me, say how lucky she was. But looking back now, I realize she rarely gave anything back. Not gifts, I don't care about stuff like that. But emotionally or effort-wise, there was always this subtle imbalance. It was always small things, like she'd expect me to handle all our plans, dinners, trips, everything. If something was broken or needed fixing, that was always my job. She'd just say, "You're better at it," and laugh it off. I didn't mind, it felt good to take care of her. Maybe I liked feeling needed, or maybe I was just blind, probably both. Anyway, fast forward, we got married about 2 years ago. I remember standing at the altar thinking this was it. I was genuinely excited about spending my life with her. I loved being her guy, being the one who took care of her, made her smile. It felt good, man, and life was pretty much smooth sailing at first. But over the last year or so, things subtly started to shift. Emily got more demanding in ways I barely noticed at first. A random designer bag here, a spa day there. I had a decent job, and we weren't broke, so I didn't question it much. I figured that's just what married life looked like. Then her friends started becoming a bigger part of our lives. I'm not saying friends are bad, I have mine too. But Emily's friends were different. They were always around, always gossiping about expensive trips, designer brands, fancy restaurants. Emily started changing too. Her tastes got more expensive, her requests more frequent, but I just rolled with it. Happy wife, happy life, right? Looking back, I should have noticed how she rarely asked how my day went, rarely asked if I needed anything. But I guess when you're caught up in something, you miss the obvious. Or maybe you choose to ignore it because admitting it would suck. Then last week happened. I got off work earlier than usual, my boss gave me a pass, something about some project wrapping up early. I figured, great, I'll surprise Emily at home, maybe actually have dinner together. Recently, we'd been drifting a bit, so I wanted to reconnect, maybe remind myself why I was working so hard. When I pulled into the driveway, her friends' cars were parked outside. No big deal, they came over often. But when I walked inside, the vibe instantly felt off. You ever walk into a room and know you interrupted something? Yeah, exactly like that. The chatter stopped abruptly, and there was this awkward pause before Emily forced a bright smile and came over, giving me this quick, superficial hug. "You're home early," she said, but it wasn't welcoming, more like a statement. "Yeah, figured I'd surprise you," I replied, trying not to make it weird. Her friends just gave me these awkward smiles, shifting uncomfortably. The energy in the room was off, heavy and tense, like they'd just been talking about something they shouldn't. But Emily quickly changed the subject, going back to laughing loudly and talking about a girls' trip they were planning. I brushed off the weirdness, figuring I was just imagining things. After all, it had been a long day. Later that night, Emily was already in bed, and I was scrolling aimlessly on my phone trying to relax. A message popped up from Rachel, one of Emily's friends who'd been there earlier. Rachel was someone I never talked to directly, friendly but distant, so seeing her name was odd. I opened the message. It was just a single voice recording, nothing else. That made my stomach twist weirdly, but I tapped play anyway. The moment Emily's voice came through, I knew it was bad. She sounded different, arrogant, mocking, mean even. "Seriously, he's like my personal doormat," she laughed casually. Her friends erupted into laughter. I literally have to do nothing. I cry a little, smile sweetly, and he hands over whatever I want. I swear, he's the easiest guy to manipulate. Her friends laughed louder. Rachel's voice softly interrupted. "That's kind of messed up." Emily snorted. "Come on, Rachel, it's hilarious. He doesn't even realize how pathetic he looks sometimes. Like, literally, last week I just mentioned wanting that stupid spa retreat to Grand. Right next morning he had it booked without even blinking. It's embarrassing how desperate he is to please me. Honestly, I could probably tell him to lick the floor, and he'd still ask if I needed anything else." Rachel didn't respond after that. The recording ended there, leaving me in stunned silence. I sat there for what felt like forever, just replaying the audio, heart racing, ears ringing. My wife, the woman I'd spent years loving, spoiling, and supporting, was mocking me like some pathetic loser in front of her friends. And the worst part was, deep down, part of me knew she wasn't wrong. I'd become exactly what she described, a doormat, so desperate to be liked that I allowed myself to be used without even noticing. I didn't sleep at all that night. I got up quietly, left the house, and drove around aimlessly, replaying every stupid decision I'd made to get here. Something inside me shifted that night, though. A switch flipped in my brain. I wasn't going to confront her right away. That'd be too easy, too predictable. No, Emily deserved something much worse. She deserved to experience exactly what she'd put me through, piece by humiliating piece. After driving around all night, thinking about it, I got home just before dawn. Emily was still asleep, obviously. She had no idea I'd even left. I didn't sleep at all, though. Instead, I sat at our kitchen table with a cup of coffee, going over every moment of our marriage in my head. The more I thought, the angrier I got, not just at Emily, but mostly at myself. How did I let things get this far? How had I been so blind? By the time she woke up, I'd already decided how I was going to handle this. No fights, no screaming matches, none of that emotional stuff she expected. She'd seen that from me before, me getting upset, feeling guilty, trying even harder to please her. Not this time. Now I was just calm, cold even, and something in me liked it. Emily shuffled into the kitchen, yawning, trying to look cute like always. Normally I'd smile, ask her how she slept, offer breakfast. Instead, I just glanced at her and looked away, sipping my coffee without saying anything. She hesitated, clearly thrown off. "Morning," she said, sounding unsure. I didn't reply right away. I let the silence sit for a few seconds, then looked up, making direct eye contact. "Morning," I finally said flatly. Then, without another word, I got up, grabbed my keys, and walked past her toward the door. She was confused. "Wait, you're leaving already? Where are you going?" "Out," I said simply. "Got stuff to handle." "Stuff?" she asked, frowning now, clearly annoyed by my sudden attitude. "What stuff?" I paused at the door, turning to face her. "My stuff," I said calmly. "I'll be back when I'm back." Then, I walked out without another glance. It felt incredible, like for the first time in our relationship, I was finally in charge. Emily had zero clue how to handle that. Over the next few days, I kept up that vibe. I didn't confront her or bring up the recording, didn't even hint that I knew. Instead, I just started pulling back. Small things at first. No random gifts, no dinner dates, no spontaneous trips. If Emily wanted something, she'd have to ask outright, and even then, I'd say no half the time. She was thrown off balance, confused, clearly trying to figure out what was happening. I started thinking back clearly to all the times I'd given in when I shouldn't have. Late-night food runs when she suddenly craved sushi, canceling plans with my friends because she needed me home, or shelling out hundreds on random things she said would make her happy, only to see them tossed aside after a couple weeks. The more I replayed it in my head, the angrier I got, mostly at myself. I realized how much I'd bent over backward just hoping for a little appreciation or validation from someone who never intended to give it. Every memory of her indifference just made my determination stronger, no more. The good guy version of me, she tried her usual tricks, fake sweetness, sad puppy dog eyes, but they bounced right off. One night she even attempted tears, saying she needed some ridiculous designer dress because all the girls have one. Normally I'd cave instantly. This time I barely glanced up from my laptop. "No," I said flatly. "What?" she snapped, clearly shocked. "Then ask them to buy you one," I cut her off calmly, not even looking up. She stood there, stunned, then stormed off, probably texting her friends about how awful I was suddenly being. Meanwhile, behind the scenes I started preparing. I opened new bank accounts she didn't know about, changed passwords on everything important, and even got a separate phone line. I wasn't taking chances. Each step made me feel stronger. I liked this new me. I also quietly met with a divorce lawyer, one recommended by a buddy who'd been through something similar. The lawyer was ruthless, exactly the kind of person I needed. When I laid everything out, Emily's spending, the recorded conversation, all the financial details, he laughed, shaking his head. "Trust me," he said. "She's going to regret every word she said." Back at home, Emily grew increasingly nervous. She tried confronting me several times about my sudden change. Each time, I'd just stare back at her, completely emotionless, and ask if there was a problem. She'd lose her nerve immediately, mumbling something about me acting weird, then retreating. She was obviously scared, probably worried I'd finally figured her out. Her friends must have sensed something too, because suddenly Emily was hosting them at our house less often. When they did come over, I made a point of lingering nearby, quietly dominant, watching them squirm under my cold gaze. Rachel, who sent me the recording, barely looked me in the eyes, probably unsure if she'd done the right thing or if I was going to cause a scene. But there wouldn't be a scene, at least not yet. I wasn't interested in cheap drama. I wanted Emily to feel exactly what she'd made me feel. I wanted her to realize that the guy she'd mocked, laughed at, and used for years was gone forever. About 2 weeks after the recording, I started hearing whispers, Emily's friends quietly distancing themselves from her. They sensed the power shift. Without my money or willingness to pay for their ridiculous lifestyle, Emily wasn't useful anymore. Watching her lose control of the narrative, seeing her realize that her influence was slipping, felt unbelievably satisfying. One night, Emily confronted me directly, clearly desperate. "Are you planning to leave me?" she asked bluntly, her voice shaking slightly. I paused, looking directly into her eyes, and smiled faintly. "Why, Emily? Would you deserve something like that?" She seemed unsure how to respond, her eyes wide, scared. I'd never spoken to her like that before. She was used to sweetness, weakness, not this calm, unshakable confidence. But she didn't deserve that good version of me. She wanted to get slapped in the face to take things seriously. The more dominant and controlled I became, the weaker she looked. It was like a mask had fallen off her face, revealing how fragile and insecure she truly was beneath all her arrogance. That realization made my decision even easier. The next step was choosing exactly when and how to deliver the final blow, the one that would shatter her carefully built facade forever. I wanted witnesses. I wanted everyone who'd ever laughed with her to see her real face exposed. After that little confrontation with Emily, things at home got seriously weird. She started acting different, almost panicky. It's funny how when someone loses control over you, they suddenly realize just how fragile their hold was in the first place. She started randomly calling me at work during the day, trying to be extra sweet and checking in on me. Just wanted to say hi, she'd text with little heart emojis. I didn't respond to most of it. At first I was surprised by how fast she flipped from arrogant manipulation to desperate insecurity, but looking back it made sense. Her entire identity had become wrapped up in her ability to control me, to make me do whatever she wanted. Now, without that power, she was spiraling. One night she tried a new tactic. She actually cooked dinner. For context, Emily never cooked, like ever. It was always takeout or me handling the meals. I came home from work to find her setting the table, looking nervous and hopeful. "I made your favorite," she announced proudly, trying for that sweet voice that used to melt me. Steak, potatoes, all of it neatly plated. It actually looked good, not going to lie. I paused, letting silence fill the room as I took off my coat and tossed my keys on the counter. Finally, I met her eyes, completely emotionless. "Thanks, but I already ate," I lied casually. Her face dropped, genuinely hurt. "Oh," she said softly, looking down. "Well, maybe tomorrow?" "Maybe," I cut her off coldly, then walked right past her, leaving her standing there, probably wondering how she'd lost me so completely. To be clear, I didn't feel good about being cold like that, but it felt necessary. Emily needed to realize that she couldn't just flip a switch and get me back under her thumb. For once, she had to experience rejection. Meanwhile, my lawyer had laid out a plan, careful, calculated, devastating. I'd gathered financial records, screenshots of Emily's extravagant shopping habits, text messages she'd sent demanding money, and of course, Rachel's voice recording. I had plenty of evidence that showed clearly how manipulative she'd been throughout our entire marriage. One day, while at work, Rachel messaged me again. "Hey, can we talk? It's important," it read. I was hesitant but agreed to meet her after work, wanting to see what she had to say face to face. We met at a little coffee shop near my office. Rachel seemed nervous, guilty almost. She barely looked at me, fidgeting with her coffee cup. "I'm really sorry," she began quietly, "about Emily, about all of it." She hesitated. "I thought you deserved to know." "Why send me that recording?" I asked bluntly. Rachel bit her lip, finally looking at me directly. Because Emily needed a reality check, and honestly, so did I. Watching her disrespect you, it stopped being funny a long time ago. I leaned back, processing that. "So, why are you still friends with her?" "I'm not," she admitted, sighing heavily. "None of us really are. Everyone's distancing themselves. Emily's realizing pretty quickly she doesn't have many real friends left." We talked a little more, and Rachel shared some of the things Emily had been saying lately, about me, about how weird I'd become, about her worries I was hiding something. Apparently, Emily had even tried snooping through my laptop and phone but found nothing. I had expected that. Everything was locked down tight. I thanked Rachel for the info but left the conversation feeling more certain than ever. Emily was panicking, desperate to regain control, but it was way too late for that. She was finally about to face the consequences of years of manipulation, and it wasn't going to be pretty. When I got home later that night, Emily was pacing anxiously in the living room. The second I walked in, she rounded on me, eyes wide with desperation. "Where were you?" she demanded. "Why didn't you answer my texts?" I took a breath, calm as ever. "Out," I said flatly. Her voice shook, frustration mixing with panic. "Out where? With who?" I smiled coldly. With who? It's none of your business. She flinched at that. Why are you acting like this? She practically pleaded. I cooked dinner again. I waited for you. I just want things back to normal. I stepped toward her, looking directly into her eyes. Normal? Like when you mocked me behind my back? Or when you bragged about using me to your friends? Her face drained of color instantly. What are you talking about? She stammered, trying for innocence. Don't, I said sharply, cutting through her act. I know everything. I've always known. She stood frozen, tears forming. Who told you? I laughed softly, almost amused. Does it matter? You think I wouldn't find out eventually? Emily stepped closer, reaching for my arm. I pulled back instantly, not letting her touch me. Please, she whispered, desperate. I was joking. I didn't mean it like that. I shook my head slowly, leaning closer. You meant every word, and now you're scared because I'm not buying your act anymore. She stared at me, stunned into silence, finally realizing how much trouble she was actually in. Over the next few days, Emily became visibly withdrawn, barely speaking, avoiding eye contact. It was clear she'd realized she'd lost. The dynamic had completely shifted. She had nothing and no one. Meanwhile, I was thriving, calm, focused, fully prepared. Around that time, my lawyer and I had everything lined up, finances secured, accounts separated, all the evidence organized neatly in one devastating file. I'd also quietly found myself an apartment, a simple, modern place downtown. I signed the lease without telling Emily a thing. She was about to find out soon enough anyway. About a week later, Rachel messaged me. Turns out one of Emily's friends, let's call her Steph, was throwing a big birthday dinner at her place. Emily had been invited but was hesitant about going, mostly because her social circle was now fully aware she'd lost her grip on me. Rachel, however, suggested this might be the perfect stage to expose everything publicly. I liked the way she thought. The day of Steph's dinner, Emily approached me cautiously, clearly uncomfortable. Steph's birthday dinner is tonight, she began awkwardly. Do you want to go? I pretended to think it over for a moment. Sure, I replied casually, surprising her. Might be fun. Her eyes narrowed slightly, suspicious at my sudden change of heart. Really? I smiled calmly. Yeah, why not? It's been a while since I've seen everyone. She nodded slowly, clearly unsettled but not sure why. Okay, she said finally. Thank you. Now she's thanking me over things I automatically used to do. That evening we got ready in tense silence. Emily was dressed nicer than usual, probably trying to salvage some dignity in front of her friends. I wore my best suit, sharp, polished, and deliberately intimidating. For once I looked exactly how I felt, completely in control. We drove over without talking much, the silence heavy. When we arrived, Steph greeted us with fake warmth, though I caught her glancing nervously between Emily and me. Everyone else was already there, talking loudly, drinking, clearly unaware of the storm about to hit. Emily smiled nervously, slipping immediately into her fake, friendly persona. I stood calmly beside her, watching closely as she struggled to maintain appearances. Rachel was across the room, giving me subtle but encouraging looks. She knew what was coming. Dinner began normally enough. Superficial conversations. Fake laughter. Emily stayed unusually quiet, nervously sipping water, occasionally glancing my way. She knew something was off but couldn't pinpoint exactly what. Midway through dinner, Steph turned to Emily, her tone overly bright. So, Em, when's your next big trip? Italy, right? Emily hesitated, glancing at me. I don't know yet, she said weakly, forcing a smile. Maybe soon. Steph laughed lightly. Oh, come on, you never skip trips. You always said you have the perfect sponsor, she added jokingly, glancing at me with a forced smile. The table fell quiet, sensing tension. Emily went pale, clearly unsure how to respond. Perfect. This was my cue. I leaned back in my chair confidently, drawing everyone's attention. Actually, speaking of sponsorship, I said clearly, pulling an envelope from my jacket pocket and placing it deliberately on the table. I think Emily might need to start funding her own lifestyle now. Every pair of eyes turned toward me. Emily froze, staring at the envelope in horror. Steph awkwardly cleared her throat. What's going on? She asked uncertainly, glancing between us. Open it, I said smoothly, nodding at Emily. Go ahead. With shaky hands, Emily picked it up, fumbling awkwardly as she opened the envelope. She slowly pulled out the papers, scanning the first page, then the next. The color drained completely from her face. What? What is this? She stammered weakly. Divorce papers, I announced calmly. I've already filed. Emily's eyes widened in panic. But I don't understand, she managed to whisper. Don't you? I leaned forward slightly, voice firm and direct. I'm ending this joke of a marriage. You lost your puppet. Steph shifted uncomfortably in her seat. Should we go? she asked nervously, looking around the table, but no one moved. They were riveted, unwilling to miss a single detail. Emily's voice shook with desperation. "Please, don't do this here. Can we just go home and talk?" "No," I cut her off. "You never had a problem talking about me here before. Why stop now?" Her mouth opened and closed helplessly, tears gathering in her eyes. "I'm sorry," she whispered weakly, defeated. "Save it," I cut her off sharply. "You knew exactly what you were doing. You had a man who would have given you everything, respect, loyalty, a life most women would kill for. But instead, you treated me like your personal ATM. You bragged about how easy I was to manipulate, how pathetic I was for spoiling you. Well, look at you now, Emily, realizing you threw away the best thing you'll ever have. You didn't appreciate what you had, and now you've lost it all." Gasps and whispers filled the table. Emily shrank in her chair, completely humiliated. Rachel looked down, uncomfortable but satisfied. Steph finally spoke, breaking the tense silence. "Emily, is that true?" Emily's eyes darted around desperately for sympathy, but everyone avoided her gaze. She had nowhere left to hide. I stood up slowly, buttoning my jacket with calm finality. "From now on, you're funding your own lifestyle. I'm done paying your way and covering your lies." I glanced around the table, addressing everyone else. "Just thought you all deserved to know exactly who Emily really is." Then I turned back to her. "Enjoy explaining yourself to your friends." With that, I walked calmly toward the door. Behind me, I heard Emily weakly pleading, trying to salvage some dignity. No one offered support, no one comforted her. They enjoyed seeing her devastated after bragging about having a personal ATM in front of them. Driving home alone that night, I realized something important. I was often expected to give endlessly without question or complaint, time, money, support, patience, but nobody ever taught me when to stop or told me it's okay to walk away when it isn't appreciated. I thought about my dad again, realizing the key difference. My mom always respected and appreciated his efforts. Emily never did. That clarity hit hard. I'd finally learned that real strength isn't just giving endlessly, it's also knowing exactly when to walk away from people who take you for granted. That night, my phone blew up. Emily called maybe 20 times, frantic voicemails, texts, begging me to come back, apologizing, trying every trick she could think of. She started off angry, then quickly shifted to sadness, pleading, desperation. It was kind of pathetic, actually. I listened to each message without responding. She'd lost the right to any kind of sympathy from me. I also got a message from Steph. At first, I thought she was checking in on the drama, but no, she straight up asked if I'd be down to grab dinner sometime, just us. Honestly, I laughed out loud. The audacity, man. Steph had sat right there, laughing alongside Emily for years, and now she suddenly thought she had a shot. I sent back a single laughing emoji, deleted her number, and blocked her. It felt great knowing I wasn't just done with Emily, but with anyone like her. The next few days were wild. My lawyer quickly finalized the papers and secured everything. We changed locks on the house, closed joint accounts, cut off credit cards, all the steps we'd carefully planned. I moved into a small temporary apartment I'd rented weeks earlier. Meanwhile, the fallout from the dinner exploded spectacularly. Emily's so-called friends wasted zero time gossiping about her humiliation. Screenshots from group chats quickly spread. Turns out those friends who'd laughed along with her jokes were now openly mocking her, sharing every detail of her downfall. Rachel even sent me screenshots of their conversations. "Did you see Emily's face? Absolute gold. Honestly, she had it coming. Maybe next time, don't treat your husband like trash. Can't believe she thought he'd just keep paying forever. LMAO. It was brutal but satisfying. Emily finally saw the truth. Her entire social life was fake. Without money or the ability to flaunt luxury trips and designer clothes, she had zero value to those friends. Watching her realize that was sweet, sweet justice. She moved out of our place within days. I heard through mutual acquaintances that she'd moved into a tiny studio apartment across town. Apparently, she was trying to downplay the situation, acting like it was a mutual decision, but everyone knew the truth. She couldn't hide from the gossip, no matter how hard she tried. Financially, things hit her even harder. All her credit cards tied to my accounts were canceled, and her lavish lifestyle disappeared overnight. No more random designer bags or spa days. She tried contacting me again. Texts, voicemails, even showed up at my workplace once. But each time I shut her down coldly. I had zero interest in reconciliation or closure. Her messages ranged from desperate apologies, "I messed up, please just talk to me," to threats, "I'll make you regret this." Nothing worked. I didn't even blink. Letting her spiral without any reaction from me felt deeply satisfying. My friends, meanwhile, rallied around me hard. Most admitted they'd never liked Emily but didn't want to say anything. Classic, right? One buddy joked about finally being allowed to say she was a horrible person. We laughed about it, which felt great. About 2 weeks after everything went down, Rachel messaged again. She mentioned Emily had practically vanished from their group, no longer invited anywhere, ignored completely. She burned every bridge, Rachel texted. She's finally seeing the reality she created for herself. Apparently, Emily had become completely isolated. Her reputation was shot. People now saw her clearly, a manipulative, shallow person who got exactly what she deserved. Normally, I'm not big on celebrating someone's misery, but honestly, it felt like real justice. My family was supportive too, especially my mom. When I finally told her everything, she hugged me and said quietly, "You deserve so much better than that, honey. I'm glad you finally realized it." That hit me hard, but in a good way. I'd forgotten what genuine support felt like. Things stabilized financially quickly. Without Emily's ridiculous spending, my accounts grew steadily. For once, I didn't stress about surprise expenses or her extravagant demands. Instead, I started planning trips I'd always wanted to take, doing things purely because I wanted to. A few months after everything blew up, Emily pretty much disappeared from my life completely, except for the occasional vague update from mutual friends. Apparently, she had burned through the little savings she had left, was working some retail job, and kept a low profile, probably hoping the gossip about her spectacular fall from grace would blow over eventually. I barely thought about her honestly. I was way too busy actually enjoying my life for once. Then, one random afternoon, everything changed again. I'd stopped at a local cafe near my office, just grabbing coffee and catching up on some emails. It was quiet, relaxing, exactly the kind of thing Emily would have hated for being boring. Then, out of nowhere, I heard a familiar voice behind me. My heart skipped weirdly for a second as I glanced up, annoyed, hoping it wasn't who I thought it was. Of course, it was. Emily stood awkwardly near the counter, clearly hesitating about approaching me. She looked noticeably different, honestly, she just looked defeated. Finally, she walked slowly toward me. "Hey," she said quietly, trying for a smile. Her voice was soft, unsure, nothing like the confident girl who'd once controlled my entire life. I stared at her blankly for a second, showing zero reaction. "Hey," I finally replied, completely flat. I didn't invite her to sit down, didn't smile. She needed to know instantly I wasn't interested in whatever game she thought she could play. Emily shifted uncomfortably. "Can we talk?" she asked softly, nervously glancing around. "We're talking now," I said calmly. "What do you want?" She flinched slightly, clearly hurt by my bluntness, but I didn't care. She took a deep breath as if gathering courage. I wanted to apologize for everything. I didn't react, just waited silently, letting her words hang in the air awkwardly. She continued, "I was horrible to you. I took you for granted, treated you badly. I realize that now. Losing you, it made me see how messed up I was." I stared at her silently, letting the discomfort stretch. She squirmed under my cold gaze, clearly unused to this version of me. "I was hoping," she hesitated, voice small, eyes hopeful. "Maybe we could start over? Just as friends or something? I miss having you around." I actually laughed. "Friends?" I echoed, shaking my head, slightly amused. "We were never friends, Emily. We were barely even married. You used me. That's all there ever was." Her eyes filled with tears instantly, hurt and embarrassed. "Please, just give me another chance. I've changed." I leaned forward. "Have you, though? Or is it just because you need someone to pay your bills again? Your friends dumped you, your lifestyle's gone, and suddenly you want me back. Convenient timing." She looked away, face burning red with humiliation. She didn't even deny it, which told me everything I needed to know. "You know," I continued coolly, "you were right about one thing. I was pathetic. Pathetic for ever tolerating your manipulation, pathetic for being good to you, which you didn't deserve. But you did me a favor, Emily. You woke me up." She stared at me silently, tears running down her face. I didn't feel even a hint of guilt or pity. She deserved every bit of this moment. "You don't miss me," I went on calmly. "You miss having control. But that guy you think you manipulated, mocked, he's gone for good." She opened her mouth, clearly desperate to salvage something, but I cut her off immediately. "There's nothing left to say. Move on. I have." Without waiting for a response, I stood up, grabbing my coffee calmly. She stared up at me helplessly, completely defeated. I paused for just a second, looking down at her calmly. "Oh, and don't ever approach me again. We're done." Then, I walked away, leaving her sitting there alone, humiliated, finally understanding the reality she'd created. I didn't look back, didn't hesitate, because I knew exactly who I was now, stronger, confident, completely free. After that day, Emily never reached out again. I didn't hear about her, didn't ask, didn't care. I was finally free, fully at peace with the entire situation. The life I'd built was completely mine now, one that no one could take from me again. A few months later, I started dating again. Nothing serious at first, just getting back out there. Eventually, I met someone genuinely different. A woman who noticed the small things, thanked me for simple gestures, and made me feel valued without expecting expensive gifts or grand gestures. One evening, I gave her something I'd made myself, a small wooden carving. Nothing fancy, just something personal. She lit up with genuine excitement, smiling like I'd given her the world. Seeing that excitement over something so small made me realize exactly how unbalanced things had been with Emily. It finally clicked that a relationship should never be about one person endlessly giving while the other just takes. It was never about keeping score, but about feeling valued and respected. And this girl, without even knowing it, reminded me what real appreciation felt like. And that's the one I would feel happy to spoil. Sometimes, I think about how different things would have been if I'd never overheard her mocking me that night. If Rachel had never sent that recording, I'd probably still be blindly giving, trapped in Emily's game. I'd still be miserable without even realizing it. Instead, I'm genuinely grateful things happened exactly the way they did. As for what's next, honestly, I'm just going to live. No more stress, no manipulation, no toxic people, just living life the way I want, on my terms, for once. I'm genuinely excited about the future. Thanks for coming along for this wild ride, Reddit. Your support meant the world, and if you're going through something similar, trust me, standing up for yourself is worth every bit of pain it takes.